So on today's Coffee with Manitou session today, just do a brief introduction here and give you a few housekeeping things, and we'll go ahead and get started here because we do have very limited time with so much to show you and so little time to do it. Okay. All right. With our topic today, during this webinar, we're going to explore several important features of Manitou. Let me preface by saying it's not all of the features of ManitouNEO, but definitely some of the important ones that we wanted to make sure we highlighted that you've been waiting for. Number one is the new customer wizard. I'm going to show you that today. We're going to show you dashboard and dashboard analytics. You'll know what the difference is here momentarily. We're also going to look at enhanced action patterns, customizable GPS mapping, and finally, the video control center. Really excited to show you these great features in ManitouNEO. A couple of things to mention here. We will be at ISC West again this year. Our booth number is 17109, and we will be having live demos of the products the suite of products that you see listed there here on the PowerPoint. Very excited to show you those live demos. Jot down our booth numbers so you would know where we are at ISC West. In addition to that, we also do want to remind you that we are planning and moving forward with our 2017 Bold Users Conference, which will be held August the 8th through the 10th, located in Denver, Colorado in the Brown Palace Hotel. And this year's our theme is Engage, Learning, Connection, and Innovation. So registration now is open on our beautiful website. Marketing team has done such a great job with that. Take a look at that and register for that. We would love to have you.
So we should be able to see my screen now. Maybe Bryant or Karen, can you confirm? We're looking at the NEO client?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah. Perfect. So the first piece we wanted to cover today was the new enhanced dashboard for our operators, for our supervisors. When we log into the NEO client for the first time of the day, we're going to be presented with a standard dashboard. So what you can see here is similar to the older Visual Basic client. We have a list of any recent customers we've touched that we've worked with. If we're doing data entry, if we've just handled an alarm for them, we have our recent alarm customers. Just to have that quick access to go back. Maybe we need to update transmitter information, contact list, call list, any of that. We have our quick access to our customer accounts we've recently touched. We can also pin customers to our watch list here along the bottom. So any of those high priority accounts we're dealing with that we just want quick access to on a daily basis, we can pin them here to our watch list, jump to any of those accounts quickly. Under the statistics piece of the dashboard, this is really helpful to get operators quickly up to speed when they log in first time of the day. Depending on their job in the central station, they'll probably have some unique statistics that they're interested in. How many customers are currently in alarm? How many customers might be on test? Are we working with technicians today, installing new systems, doing some maintenance? How many customers have been dispatched on in the last day, 2 days, 3 days? If we're working with those technicians on the service side, customers with new maintenance issues, keeping up to date on our unresolved maintenance issues, if we have any lingering, maintenance issues out there. If we're responsible for updating our permits, checking into our expired permits, as well as some just basic transmitter summaries down at the bottom. Along the top, we do have our customer counts. It is important to note that any of these customer counts, for a lot of our customers, if this is over 2,000 accounts, you're going to get a warning that we can't load that many accounts in the dashboard. That's simply to keep down the resources, pulling information from SQL. If we were to allow those operators to pull those customer accounts, we don't want to be bogging down the system to do that. On our lists that are going to be more than 10 customer accounts or so, we do have the ability to pull up the first 10 accounts, jump to our additional accounts from there. Any of the accounts we want to go to from that list, we can directly go to that customer account. Along the side to the right here, we do have just some basic customer account information displayed into a pie chart. We can look at all of our customers with no dealer, give us a clearer picture of, in-house versus third-party customers, as well as customers with no branch if we're using branches. From there, we'll jump into some of the additional features of the dashboard, the first being being able to tie into a national or international weather service. If we're keeping an eye on a storm that might affect our day, maybe we want to preemptively go into storm mode in a certain area, or we're just keeping an eye on the weather, looking out for those trouble signals that might come in, low batteries, systems getting knocked out. If we're monitoring across multiple time zones, which a lot of our sites do, we can put up some handy time zone information for our operators. A lot of our sites will take this dashboard, put it up on a big screen for everybody in the monitoring station to have a quick eye on. A lot of the pieces that were built into the old event center are things that are going to be widgets in the new dashboard. So that's going to be available to all of our current customers. We are going to have some advanced features of the dashboard, which are the dashboard analytics. If we want to take a look at very specific alarm queue data and represent that in different graphical, pie charts, bar charts, line charts, through dashboard analytics, we can pull those pieces into your dashboard. If you want to just keep an eye on the alarm queue, by zip code, postal code, maybe dealer ID, you want to see how many alarms you've got in across your dealers, as well as by the specific event code. So those are going to be some of the features available in the analytics. There are going to be more features to come in the analytics, so look out for updates and news in that regard. And with that, I think I will pass it back to Karen for our first poll question regarding the dashboard.
Okay, great. So we have a poll question, so we're going to go ahead and launch that, and let's see what everybody thinks. All right, so let's go ahead and see what you think. Which features would you like or are most excited to use? All right, with 87% of people voting, let's go ahead and share that. I like that. Alarm queue filtered by cool things. He won by 58%. That's pretty darn nice. All right. And back to you, Blake.
All right. Great. Thank you, Karen. The next piece we want to step through for you guys is the new customer wizard. So I'll jump into sort of our customer maintenance side of things here in NEO, and we'll just quickly go through what the new account creation looks like through the wizard. Our first step, of course, is going to be giving our customer a unique customer ID within the system. We'll go with Coffee with Manitou abbreviation. Once we're into the wizard, our operator, our data entry specialist can clearly see all of the steps that they need to complete along the top to create their new customer. We're not going to go completely through all of the steps today. As Karen mentioned, there's a great new video available on the resource library that really goes into depth on the customer wizard. But we'll do some simple steps here. So we'll just name our customer. Here, of course, is where you put in your address information, time zone information. If we scroll down a little bit further for our sites that have an accounting integration, here's where your accounting company AR number goes. If we jump over to our next step, here we have our general contact points, our site phone number, email address, and web address if they have it. Our monitoring details, here's where we can set those passwords that we have on our systems, as well as UL information like in the old client. If we jump over to our system, we'll create a test system here real quick. We'll just call it Coffee with Manitou. So we create our base system just like we were in the previous client, add a transmitter. Again, we'll go with Coffee with Manitou, choose our transmitter type, our receiver line prefix. We'll go with the default, and hopefully we have an available transmitter ID. Next, we'll jump over to our areas and zones. One of the great new features of the Customer Wizard from a data entry standpoint is the new copy and paste features in our areas and our zone lists. So I'm going to go ahead and go into adding our areas. I'm going to pull up a text document really quick with some area and zone information for our site. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that, move it to the side, and paste that in. So if our sites can provide us, in a simple text document, area information, zone list information, we now have a way to easily copy that into the Customer Wizard, no longer having to manually go in, add in all those areas and zones. We'll delete our extra area there, and we'll go into our zone list. Again, I'm going to pull that just from our text file, move that aside. And here you can see we've added a whole bunch of zones for our customer account almost instantly, really smoothly. We do get this extra, zone at the bottom if we needed to add an extra one, but we don't in this instance, so we'll continue on. There we've added our system. If we move on to our contacts, we have a similar feature in our contact list where we'll be able to, again, provided a tab delimited text file here, we can quickly grab our contacts. Sorry, we do need to add a couple of additional fields here for phone numbers for our site. Let me copy these again. And it's important to not click into directly a field, or else we're going to paste our entire contact list into one field. If we select the box that we're on where we want to paste the information, it should fill out nicely for us. So there we go. We've added our contacts, site, home phone number. If we had another field for mobile, that would have been added as well. And we've got our extra contacts here that we don't need, so we'll remove them. We'll go ahead and skip our call list and our user defined, and at that point we're finished with our customer. Oh, I didn't add an address, of course, but I think you guys get the idea and some of the enhanced features of adding the new customers in. So with that, I'll kick it back to Karen for our second poll question.
Thank you very much, Blake. All right, let's get our next poll going. All right. So our next one is, before today, did you know ManitouNEO was going to have the copy-paste feature? All right, we're at 90% voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close this poll and share it. And look at that. All right, well, I'm so glad that you guys joined us so that you know that we have this copy-paste feature. And this copy-paste feature is available in several other places, including transmitter-type programming. So I hope you're all excited about that, because I know I am. All right, let's go ahead and get back to you, Blake.
All righty, thank you, Karen. So with that, we're going to jump into one of our video accounts in the system, and we'll quickly go over the new Video Control Center and some of the great new features in the Video Control Center. First, I do want to point out, if we pull up our system and our transmitter here and their devices, one of the new cool features on the customer account is being able to capture a reference image from the Video Control Center and tie that to our device on the customer account in the system. So for our operators, when they're doing their video verification, if they're going out to a live camera feed and they're not sure if that camera is pointed at where it should be, we have a quick reference image that we can go and look at. This is available from the alarm handling screen when you're looking at your plan page. So operators have a really good idea, has this camera been tampered with by somebody that broke in? But from there, let me go ahead and pull over our Video Control Center. So this is our camera that we're looking at that we created the reference image for. This is one of our Avigilon cameras integrated with the ACC. This is a native video driver to the Video Control Center, so you can see we get a great full screen clear picture from this camera. If we were connected to a DVR, we would have some additional playback controls along the bottom. If we want to jump back in time, try and verify something we saw in the live feed, we would have those controls through specific DVR integrations. If we expand our sidebar here, this is where we have access to some of our additional and enhanced controls for certain integrations. So this does happen to be a static camera, but if we did have our PTZ controls where we could pan our camera around, zoom in, zoom out, affect the focus, the iris, we would have those controls available to us here. We do have the ability to create some presets. So as we're going through setting up our camera and our devices in our system, if we want to create some preset locations for the cameras to look at, we can do that now and create our video tours. So when we connect to this camera, if we want to tell it to point to, 3 different entry points that it has available to it, we can do that through a tour on the camera, assuming we have those PTZ controls. If we jump into the audio feature here, for our audios that have a microphone, audio connected to them, here is where we can control, that talk down to the perpetrator on site, listen to anybody who may be on site as well. For our specific DVR integrations, we do have the search feature. So if we're just going in, we're looking for a clip when an event happened, maybe we need to provide evidence or something, we can go in, do our search, and download that clip locally to our workstation. One of the new enhanced features is some of the metadata we can tie into on our video cameras. So certain integrations out there are going to have different analytics. If we have our barriers that we can set up for triggering the system, we can take a look at our analytics, live through Manitou. Some of the much newer integrations are starting to have license plate recognition, so that's built into our metadata. You can see we have our motion turned on, so we can see our waves in the pool, of course all the cars passing by. Then we have some other basic features, image timestamp. We don't have our camera location turned on, but we do have our device name. Through the miscellaneous controls, here is where we can, certain cameras out there have an input that you can trigger on them. Maybe that's a light that we can turn on, or a nighttime setting, like an infrared, something like that. That's where we can trigger our input on the camera. Then we have some more basic settings, how many cameras do we want to limit our VCC to as far as opening them, all at the same time. And yeah, with that, that's kind of a overview of the new VCC, which is replacing the media matrix in the existing platform. We will be looking to add on, new native video drivers as we move forward. I know we're really excited about some new integrations that are coming up, so look out for those. And with that, I'll pass it back over to actually Bryant for our poll question.
All right, perfect. All right, we'll do our third poll question today in regards to our video control center. And so this one here, let me launch it here. What percentage of your authorities require video or audio verification? So go ahead and start plugging away here. All right, so about at 20% mark, 78% there. So thank you so much for giving us that information. We appreciate that. And Blake, back over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. So with that, I think we're going to jump over to some of the new features regarding GPS tracking in Manitou. So this is going to be for our sites out there who have Bold Track or are looking to add on Bold Track to their system. Let me pull up or go back to our dashboard and pull up my GPS account. So the new GPS interface, as we were making the transition to NEO, some things changed in the world of GPS and pulling in maps into an application. So in the past, where we've used exclusively Google Maps, they made some changes to how they price and structure their mapping options, which for most of our sites made that solution really not feasible. So you can see in our new mapping solution here, we happen to be using MapQuest. There are going to be multiple options going forward for our sites to bring in the different maps that you want to utilize with Bold Track. So you will still have Google as an option, MapQuest, Bing. All of the different mapping providers out there have pricing structures for their APIs. So as a part of Bold Track solution, we do require you to provide a mapping key that we're going to integrate into the solution. So with that, we'll take a look at some of the geofences here and then some of the GPS transmitter tracking. So for our geofences, in the instance where you're monitoring a device, in the world of fleet tracking, this is important to, if you're watching a truck on their delivery route and you want to create a geofence, or maybe you're monitoring a school and children who you don't want to have leave a certain area, those type of situations where you'd create a geofence. Let's pull that up real quick. If we go into edit, here is where we can set what type of geofence we're dealing with. Do we want to create an alarm if we get a location inside of the geofence or outside of the geofence, or maybe we just want to know if the location was in the geofence and has exited or crossed, one of the boundaries of the geofence. For some of those, fleet tracking sites out there, we can set our max speed. So if we get a locate signal in that's, for example, over in a certain number of miles per hour, we can create an alarm condition off of that. If we want to assign this an area ID on our system, we can, as well as just basic naming, setting the size and shape of our geofence. If we jump over to the tracking side, here's where we can see some of our history and locates that have come into the system for our GPS devices. If we're just monitoring a breadcrumb trail of signals that have come in, we can clearly see that history. If we filter this a little bit, we can take a look at just our locates, some of those breadcrumbs that have come into the system, or signals, or our actual alarm events. If we remove our alarms and signals here real quick, we have a clearer picture of just the locates, just the breadcrumb signals we've gotten in. We can see sort of the history of the device, what direction it's traveling. If you take a look at the legend, any of the circles are previous locations, and then our square is our current or last known location from the device. If we do click on any of the locates, through location services and connections to those PSAP databases out there, we can actually find a nearest address or a last known location, based off of that. Being able to give our dispatchers, an address. Some of the new features they're looking to add on it down the road on Bold Track is being able to use a distance tool. So if we needed to let an authority know, how far is this location from the main highway or intersection, we'll be able to do some things where we drop a pin on the map and take a look at the distance, how many yards, feet is this from our last known location. So that's a quick overview for our sites out there that already have Bold Track or are looking to add GPS monitoring to their central station. And with that, I'll kick it back to Bryant for another poll.
All right, thank you, Blake. Love that new GPS tracking feature there. Our next poll is in reference to our GPS monitoring here. Are you currently using GPS and or Bold Track? Are you using GPS with Bold Track, GPS only, or no GPS at all? Really curious about that. Show you the results, and 65% is saying no GPS. So hopefully you see that, the GPS tracking features in ManitouNEO, and that would be something you would like to talk to your sales rep about. All right, Blake, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryant. So one of the last features here, and one of the features I know a lot of sites out there are really excited about, are our enhanced action patterns. So, we quickly wanted to touch on, what a basic enhanced action pattern might look like. One of the cool things I know Karen and her training team, Bryant and the guys are all working really hard on are, right now they're collecting a lot of customer stories out there. Do you have a really tricky situation with a customer that, a standard action pattern just doesn't really fit their needs for handling their type of alarm? So, what we're doing is collecting a lot of those stories. We're going to work through it with customers through training, coming up with these enhanced action patterns. And, down the road, something we're looking to do is create these enhanced action patterns, add them into basically a repository, something that would get built into our library of action patterns here. And down the road, in future releases and updates of NEO, being able to roll out those enhanced action patterns as really just updates to your system. So you would have a lot of these available to you at some point where, maybe one case that came up with a different site, we find this all the time. Our sites out there are very similar in what they do. And so an enhanced action pattern that's developed for somebody might help another customer. So we're really looking to start sharing those ideas and how to better handle some of those alarm scenarios out there. And I'll let Karen get into a little more detail with that. And I know she's provided some great documents through the handouts on the enhanced action patterns. So we won't dive, super deep into it today. But one of the enhanced action patterns that Karen had come up with was, I think, a scenario a lot of our sites face. So do we want to simply notify a customer for a type of signal that comes in, or do we want to have an operator handle it, going through our full call list, spending time to get a hold of our customer? The action pattern she's created here says if we're inside of a particular schedule, we're simply going to notify our customer via script. So that can be, maybe it's an email, maybe it's an SMS message, maybe you've got the new Bold Notify Me app and we're just going to send a push notification. if we're not inside of that schedule, we're going to do something else. We're going to go through our full call list. We want to personalize this, give the customer a call, and then we're going to move on to closing our alarms. So, this might apply to a lot of those trouble signals, the lower priority signals you have out there. Do we want to automate this at certain times of day? And then do we want to add the personal touch at other times of day? Another feature of the enhanced action patterns is the masking. So if we're an operator and we're in alarm handling, if-then statements, programming that we can do, some of the things on the back end are going to be very complex and not something you're going to want an operator to try and interpret. So with that, they introduced the masking. So being able to take that very complex enhanced action pattern and break it down to very simple instructions for our operator to follow is going to be very important. So through that masking tool, you can see Karen has changed a lot of the verbiage and the wording here for our operator. If the event trips within acceptable hours, just email them with a notification. Whether that's an operator doing it or you have the virtual operator that can do that piece of it. Again, just simplifying the action patterns, your standard procedures and your instructions for the operator is going to be a really cool tool. With that, let's go ahead and jump into, I know Karen has sent in an alarm for our action pattern here. So we'll pick up our trouble signal, and as you can see in the alarm handling when it loads here, we have our very basic, simple instructions for our operator. We are within our schedule, so all they see is their 2 simple steps: email, notify the customer, and then close the alarm. So with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Karen for our last poll question, and we'll address additional questions from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Blake. That was fantastic. Yes, our last poll question is basically, do you have stories? So we really would appreciate if you have stories, because we really want to know what those important things. Do you have customer needs? Do you have city, county, state needs that you want to really get met by your action patterns? The idea is that we can sort of automate a lot of these issues that are coming up. I've had questions come up over the last year, ever since we sort of started introducing the idea of these enhanced action patterns, and people have asked, how can I crack this nut? And a lot of times I've been like, hold off, because we can do this with the enhanced action patterns. I need your stories. And I was hoping that maybe we have people who have lots of ideas. So I'm asking you to tell me whether or not you have any ideas. Let's give it a couple more seconds. We've got about 60% of you that have voted, so give it a couple more seconds here and see if we can get more people, whether or not you've got ideas. And let's see, and let's go ahead and close this poll and share. And it looks like we have a good 70% of you that have at least some ideas. Wonderful. And we'll go ahead and, do you have a plan? That's another thing that we didn't quite get a chance to show, and since we have a couple minutes left. So now we've updated and we've cleaned up the plans so that they actually are really quite nice. We can actually have sort of that point of view of the cameras, as well as a lot of really nice cleaner features, easy drag and drop. What else have you really been able to find with the plans that you've been able to sort of highlight, Blake?
Yeah, so in the floor plans, a lot of the features that were there previously still exist in the floor plans. Being able to add our multiple layers for our commercial buildings that might be multiple stories. But really, the new plan interface is really quite cool. So when we add in our cameras, our areas, our zones, our fields of view for our camera, you can see I just quickly added, where can this camera see on the specific floor plan. Everything scales really nicely to the floor plan as well. So, you know, when we're in alarm handling, when we're adding new features, everything scales really nicely. It's a really clean, simple interface. You know, having the lock and unlock button right here handy up top. If we just want to view our floor plan, you know, we know that we're not going to accidentally, you know, come in and affect one of the cameras or areas and zones on here. So yeah, it's a really great new clean interface for adding in our cameras, as well as our things like smoke detectors if we're doing our fire monitoring, our pool stations as well.
All right, fantastic. Blake and Bryant, do you have any further items?
I do. Go ahead, Blake. Did you have anything first? I'll give some final thoughts.
No, thank you guys. I'm good from this side.
Okay, perfect. All right, just had a couple of final thoughts. Again, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining this Coffee with Manitou sessions. We had a lot of people on this session on this month, and we really appreciate that. I also want to give a special shout out to Matt Narowski and his development team for the hard work that they've done in pulling the ManitouNEO together, as well as all of the Bold employees for the different various parts that they've done as well. So if you're on right now listening, we have a cyber clap for you. So thank you so much again for everyone just taking time out of their busy schedule. This session was recorded. You will receive a link to that recording on tomorrow, as we've already stated. The questions that you've presented to us that we haven't had a chance to answer live, we'll do our best to get the answers to those questions and get that information sent out to you and also the entire team in the community. So thank you again, taking time out of your busy schedule. More to come, more to come. I hope you're excited, just as excited as we are about the introduction to ManitouNEO. Thank you. You have a great day.